Following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
Time now for the most listened to talk show in Vegas. Talking with those on the right, the left, and everywhere in between. It's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
I hate everything about this Brian Shapiro guy.
This show will make you laugh, make you cry, and it might raise Brian's blood pressure.
You know what, dude? People like you, all you do is make excuses for the orange turd, and I've had it.
Buckle up, because it's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
You're different. I like you.
Now, here's Brian.
What's up, everybody? A very happy Friday, and I am so glad to be joining you on this Friday because we have a jam-packed show. You could be listening on the FMAM dial, the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. We're on X. Of course, my personal website, pushingthelimits.live. And big show lined up for you. We have a big debate lined up here at the bottom of the hour between conservative pundit, large following, Carmine Sabia, and Joe Walsh, who is a part of the new organization, Republicans for Kamala Harris. So they're going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour, getting into an all-out debate. And then coming up in hour number 2, you might have heard of this woman before. She's been on TMZ, Maxim People. She's been on Barstool Sports, the Dr. Phil Show, the Breakfast Club. She is a former teacher, now turned OnlyFans model. She decided to switch her career, and now she's a millionaire. It is pretty awesome. And you know what? At the same time, some people could say sad because teachers aren't getting paid a lot of money. I'm going to talk to her a little bit about that. The very beautiful Courtney Tillia will be joining us in studio coming up in hour number 2. But I wanted to get right into this. I guess you could call it. It's felt more like a rally than a press conference, but Donald Trump's yesterday, and he's taken a lot of flack for some comments he made about giving his rich donor an award. We'll get to that, but joining us to talk a little bit about it. It might be a tough position for him to defend, but always appreciate it when David Pollock from the David Pollock Show joins us on PTL, and David joining us right now. I appreciate you coming on, my friend, as always. How you doing?
Good. You always put me on the hot seat, man. You're like, defend all these people. I'm like, fine, I'll do it. I'll come on.
I know, David. I know, because you're like the nicest guy in the world, right? And
right.
But yet you're a Trump supporter, which is fine. That's why I prefer that, because that's why I want to have you on.
Yeah.
Let me start out, David, with the biggest topic of the day when it comes to Trump, at least where he's getting a lot of criticism. And I'm sure you had heard by now where he had said that he had given this award to this one of his rich donors. And he said this award was equal to, and quote, even better than the Medal of Honor. And the reasons why he said was because the veterans are either dead or they're wounded. A lot of people have been offended by this statement. J.D. Vance has defended it. David, I want to get your thoughts on it. What did you make of this?
Well, it reminded me of what Kamala said at her recent press conference. And see what I did there? Donald Trump is out there.
I thought you were serious, David. I got to be honest with you.
You
I was like, okay, I'm not going to interrupt, but is this guy being serious? I'm glad you were joking.
I'm glad that landed with a thud, because I thought you would pick up on that quicker and be like, wait.
I didn't. I'm like, you can't possibly be telling me. But anyway, I'm glad. I'm glad you're not. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah. Look, we know what Trump is trying to do. He's trying, and he did this. J.D. Vance kicked it off by sort of counteracting with the press at I think Kamala was at the airport, and he was like, why doesn't she talk to you? I'm talking to you. Immediately after Trump has his first press conference, he has the second press conference. They're trying to push the issue that Kamala is not taking Kamala. I'm just gonna call her Harris from now on, because I'm getting so much crap about mispronouncing her name, and I don't do it on purpose. I mispronounce.
You're not like disgraced Nancy Mace. Did you see that last night? Oh my God.
No, but I'm gonna call her Harris. But look, Harris isn't taking any questions. And yes, Trump sometimes says things that people raise their eyebrows on. Everything is always contextual. But that being said, it would be nice if Kamala would have a press conference that we can leave.
Okay, but I get that. I don't disagree with you. And I think she's going to have a press conference by the end of the month. We have a debate coming up. And I think that's fair criticism. But I think it's one thing, David, and you tell me if you disagree.
Sure.
To criticize a candidate because you think that they should do, interviews, which she hasn't done yet. And then a former president trying to get back into the White House, again, making what I would consider absurd, ridiculous, and offensive comments about our brave men and women in uniform. This is a wealthy, rich donor that he gave this award to, and he's saying this could be as equal to or better than awards for our brave men and women because they were wounded or dead. First of all, it's a dumb comment. It's offensive. And to me, this is almost as bad, maybe just as bad as saying I don't respect John McCain because he was captured, David.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that. You've questioned me on that issue repeatedly. Look, but regardless of that comment, he did say some other things that were really important that he's been criticized for. I mean, people are out trying to defend the. I saw it was people crossing the border. People are saying Trump said it was 20,000, and they're saying no, it was actually more like 11, or I'm sorry, 20 million. No, it's more like 11 million. And then it was what the mortgage rate was when Trump was president versus what Kamala, what Kamala's time in office has looked like. And people have been giving a lot of pushback saying those numbers are inaccurate. And the thing is, at some point, Kamala is going to have to figure out what record she's going to have to defend as well. I mean, I'm here, you want me to defend Trump's comments, but Kamala has to defend her record as well. And somehow
she will be able to. I think she will be able
to. Somehow she's managed to avoid having to take responsibility for the disastrous border, the disastrous economy, and at the same time pivoting and saying somehow she's running again. When I'm president, this is going to be better. When I'm president, this is going to be better.
I understand, but I would respectfully disagree with you, and I think a lot of people in this country would to say the economy is a complete disaster. It's been headed in the right direction for a long time.
No way it's heading in the right direction. It's being propped up by duct tape and chewing gum.
Listen, I disagree with you. I think the economy has been heading in the right direction for a long time. I think if you look at the profits with your stocks and 401ks, Donald Trump, the problem is it's not just
judging of a good economy, though. I mean,
well, listen, you can go by the numbers and you can compare this country to G7 countries across the world that we compare ourselves to, and the inflation is way down compared to those countries, and the economy has recovered rapidly compared to those other countries. But that's here nor there. You had mentioned numbers and people going. Every word out of this guy's mouth at a press conference is a lie. 75% of the country support him. Most people agree with the overturning of Roe versus Wade. I mean, the Mar-a-Lago press conference might have even been worse. That was this isn't. If it was just a stat or maybe he misspoke, I would give somebody the benefit of the doubt. That's not the case here. Practically every word out of this guy's mouth is a lie. This isn't just misspeaking, David.
While Harris runs around the country and suggests that Trump supports a national ban on abortion, you can't criticize one person for misstating facts and then applaud when the other person does.
Okay, well, usually Trump can say that.
You're pretty fair on both sides, and I get that. But I'm just saying, politicians tend to highlight what they want to highlight for their voters, and happens on both sides.
So if Trump didn't want to overturn Roe, didn't want to overturn Roe versus Wade, because I don't believe a word he says, by the way, he can say he doesn't want to. If Trump didn't want to overturn Roe versus Wade, who's responsible for the overturning of Roe versus Wade?
No. Trump wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Okay, if he didn't want to, I apologize. I misspoke. Yeah. If Trump didn't want a national abortion ban, then why would he put these conservatives on the Supreme Court that overturned Roe versus Wade?
It was the right decision. It was the right decision. And as a lawyer, I can tell you the states are the best situated to make those decisions. Now, if you're California and you're Oregon or you're Colorado or New York, whatever state you might have a more liberal government, if you want to allow abortion up to whatever point in time that's even exceeds what the limitations in Roe was, you can do that. You give states the ability to choose the abortion rules for that particular state.
Okay, but here's my problem with that.
Citizen is precluded from traveling to those states to have those medical procedures.
Here's my problem with that. We saw what happened in Arizona because of Donald Trump. Now, I understand that the very conservative and crazy Supreme Court in Arizona passed this bill with no exceptions, and then it was overturned because it was so crazy. We saw what happened in Alabama. So when I hear people say leaving it up to the states, that is not necessarily true. You're leaving it up to sometimes crazy lunatic Supreme Courts in these states. 6 out of 10 Americans, Republicans and Democrats, believe in a woman's right to choose. Most people believe in what I believe in, which is I'm not for late-term abortion, even though Republicans want to keep bringing this up while it's so beyond rare. And unless there's something wrong with the mother health-wise, most people in this country believe in a woman's right to choose. Make no mistake, what Donald Trump did, and yes, Donald Trump is responsible for overturning Roe versus Wade. I understand the Supreme Court justices had to vote on it. It's Donald Trump. and then he doesn't want to own it, and it's not even brought upon in the Republican National Convention. David, this is the second most important issue to most Americans in this country. And in the entire Republican National Convention, the entire convention, it wasn't even mentioned once, the word abortion.
That is, you know what? You're 100% right. And I'm going to give you credit for pointing that out. Republicans don't know how to talk about this issue. This is a problem that the Republican Party has. They suck at branding. And the Democrats have been much stronger on the issue of abortion. I think it was one of the reasons for their success in 2022 in the midterms. But the Republican position on abortion, the mainstream Republican position on abortion is, and I don't even know how he got onto abortion, but whatever, let's go. The Republican mainstream position on abortion is similar to yours. I mean, if you look in the state of Florida, for example, I think the limitation, I believe, is 8 weeks. It might 6 or 8 weeks. I always get them mixed up. Texas, the state that gave rise to the case that overturned Roe v. Wade, I believe, was 15 weeks. So a lot of, and there's exceptions for health, incest, rape, health, and that is the mainstream view on the right with respect to abortion. Now, there is a more extreme view on the right that want a total ban on abortion. Just as you mentioned, there is an extreme view on the left of late-term abortions, whenever necessary, on demand. And somewhere in the middle, I think, is where most people agree. Republican policies, by and large, are consistent with that. And what the Supreme Court did in that case, Dobbs allowed the states to legislate what they believed was reasonable limitations on abortion. Now, you're right. Some states might do wacky things one way or the other. The courts will inevitably figure out what the benchmark is for what is acceptable and not acceptable.
The reason why they didn't bring it up in the Republican National Convention is because it's a losing cause no matter how they talk about it.
They don't know how to talk about it. It's a losing cause for them because they don't know.
Well, when you have people that write in Project 2025, and of course, Donald Trump has repeatedly lied about that as well, because
he said that is not his platform. His platform's
agenda. But he also said he says he knows nothing about it, yet everybody around him that he's hired are some of the creators of Project 2025. So like I said, some people believe some things when Donald Trump speaks. I don't believe a word he says. He's a habitual liar.
I know.
And I don't believe him when it comes to this. And I can't believe they even put that in writing, Project 2025, because it's so bat, what crazy. But with that being said, I understand the criticism of Harris not doing a press conference yet, or an interview, I should say. And I believe her when she says she's going to do one by the end of the month. I think she needs to do that sooner than later. But what would you rather have? Would you rather have a candidate that is waiting on doing an interview, or somebody that does what he does at Mar-a-Lago, or even yesterday, where he talks about Hannibal Lecter, he talks about electrocuting sharks, he says 75% of the country supports him. Every word out of this guy's mouth is a lie. And he's not, by the way, when it comes to abortion, I'm glad we're talking about this. He was asked at Mar-a-Lago, and he's repeatedly asked this question, which he refuses to answer, which is, how would you plan on voting on the referendum in Florida when it comes to abortion? His response, I'll give you that answer at a later date. No, give it right now. You're running for president. The elections are in 2.5 months. Why won't he answer that question?
I don't know. I don't know whether he answers it or not. I haven't.
He hasn't. He hasn't. He's been asked multiple times. He never will answer that question.
Briefly on that, Trump has made his abortion position very clear, and it's always been it's up to the states, and he supports the state rights to choose, and he doesn't support a national ban on abortion. That's always been his policy, even though it's been said otherwise. That's always been Trump's policy. He is probably he's probably more moderate on abortion than some other conservatives would be, and so so in that respect. But going on to Harris real quick. Yeah, by the end of the month, she might start answering questions. There's a serious and Trump needs to do a better job with this too, by the way. The voters have a choice in November of two sets of policies: the policies of the last 4 years or the policies of 4 years before that. They can take a look at their own lives and determine whether or not their life was better while Donald Trump was president, or when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have been president. That is really where we should be focusing. And Kamala Harris has not figured out a way to articulate the failures of her administration. Instead, she's just waiting until she gets the talking points squared away. So yeah, I'll get back to you in about a month. Once I get past the convention, they tell me what to say on the issue. Look, Joe Biden has not held.
What issue are you not clear about with Kamala Harris? Which issue are you referring to?
The border, whether or not she's responsible for it or not. The left has said she's not the border czar. She's not responsible.
Well, she wasn't. If you look at her job,
he put her in charge of the border, though. Whether you call her the border,
Mayorkas was in charge of the border. That's not true.
Well, somebody that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had put left in that position after the disastrous.
If you want to attack her for her and Biden, and by the way, it wasn't her, it was Biden, for placing Mayorkas in that position, then go ahead and do so, and that's a fair conversation. but Harris didn't hire him, number one. And
Right.
you said Harris, and you guys say Harris is the border czar, which she was not. Let's be factually accurate. If you want to criticize Mayorkas, have at it, man. Let's talk about that. But
she was put in charge of the border. And even if we dispute that, the big issue is this. If you're vice president, what is your sole responsibility as vice president? What do you do? You're there to back up the president when the president is unable to serve. That is your duty. That's why you're there. You're extra, right?
Sure.
Joe Biden has not held a cabinet level meeting since October. The world saw how in decline he was. And I know you and I argued about that before the debate. Remember, we talked about debate, see how he did. After the debate, I know you and I spoke. It was like, okay, that was pretty bad. So bad, in fact, that his party said, yeah, it's time for you to move aside, Joe. So Joe Biden is in such a state where he's not even able to proceed in his candidacy for president.
I disagree.
Well, fine. The point is, Kamala has covered up for his inability to run this country.
You don't know
her
that.
job as vice president is, and her duty to the American people is to say, hey, we have a problem in this country. Our commander in chief is not fit to serve. And as vice president, it is on her not to cover it up, but to speak on behalf of the American people. And Joe Biden is not running this country. Who is? He hasn't. Look, the war is about to break out in the Middle East. The border is still wide open. Another woman was just raped in New York from migrants again. They're running through New York City now.
All of a sudden, Trump supporters now care about rape. The guy that you're supporting is a viable sexual rapist, number one. Number two, if you want to talk about cover-ups, we can go back to January 6th and Jim Jordan's and all the Trump supporters.
We need to go back to January 6th because they still haven't released the tapes and we still haven't got the information. And by the way, after the Supreme Court ruled that the 1512, the law that they misapplied to put people in jail because they wanted the punishment to fit the crime or the crime to fit the punishment, then they went back. Merrick Garland went back and just found some other reason to keep people in jail. What happened on January 6th is an injustice to this entire country. And if we're serious about criminal justice reform, and if we want to ignore Kamala's record in California of imprisoning people for pot, we need, and now look, they're trying
How many people did she imprison for pot in 7 years?
I don't know how many people.
You don't know.
No.
Well, I do.
How many people did you put in jail for pot? They're still in
I
jail.
will tell you. So I hear talk again. In my opinion, David, I respect you, but you're giving out talking points without the facts.
Okay.
Fact of the matter is that I hear Republicans say she put thousands of people in jail for marijuana charges. Not true. 45 people were put in jail in the 7 years she was in California. Of those 45 people, those people were not in jail for smoking a joint on a sidewalk. Many of them were making boatloads of money, in some cases 6 figures, for growing marijuana and distributing marijuana from their homes. Okay. So the idea that she put all these people in jail for minor drug charges is a lie.
But the drug charges that she laughs about. She laughs about marijuana use when people ask about her Jamaican heritage. Recently she joked about it, and it upset.
I don't know what comment you're referring to, but now we're talking about you don't like the fact that Harris laughed about a marijuana joke, but yet you have no problem with Donald Trump attacking our brave men and women in uniform. He has one of the biggest donors.
He is endorsed and supported by almost every single military, police union, and border patrol union. All law enforcement by and large supports Trump way more than they support Harris.
Okay, again, we can go and look at those statistics, but to say that everybody, all those people,
I corrected myself and said a lot of them.
If we're talking about I hear this all the time. The border's wide open. The border is not wide open.
11 million people
it is not wide open. We've had issues. To say that the border's wide open and people are just welcoming those that are undocumented in here is also not true. Do we have issues at the border?
Hold on, though, Brian. In New York City, they literally have roving gangs of criminals that are robbing people so much that they have to go and set up task force to keep people safe in Central Park. And they're leaving from the migrant shelters, which are beautiful hotels, while homeless people are still sleeping on the streets.
Okay, but here's my problem with this conversation, right? And I think it's fair to have these conversations and talk about an issue and a crisis that we absolutely have at the border.
Yeah.
But I go back to saying
Kamala's watch. It was a crisis of her.
Again, if you just want to blame Kamala Harris for all of our issues at the border, I think that's ridiculous. But going back to what I said earlier, you bring up rape.
Yeah.
Okay, which is horrible. I think we both could agree it's one of the worst
corrupt crime. That was one of the most. New York City, those prosecutions of Trump on both the civil and criminal cases were some of the worst prosecuted things I've seen in my life.
And when it comes to Donald Trump and when it comes to sexual abuse,
Right.
he must be innocent, even though he was found liable in a court of law with a jury.
And
But if
that
an illegal comes into this country and allegedly commits a rape, they have to be a rapist. You talk about criminality. Your guy is a 34 count felon. Okay, let me repeat that. Your guy is a 34 count
which
felon.
will be overturned, and I promise you it will.
In your opinion. So if it's an R next to their name, it can't be fair, and it's going to be overturned. When I hear people talk about serious issues like the border, I want to listen. But when you're talking about crime and rape and you support a guy that is literally a criminal,
you cannot. Good. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'll finish. Go ahead. But when you support that kind of guy, it's hard for me to listen. Am I wrong?
Yes, because you're comparing Donald Trump to people who have crossed the border from crime-ridden countries, supposedly to avoid violence and look for opportunity. And then they come here and they form gangs. They commit violence. These people broke the law crossing the border to begin with. Then we give them a place to live. We give them money. And what do? They rape and rob our citizens.
You're making gross generalizations of all the people.
I'm not making it up. Look it up.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Of the millions of people that come into this country that are not documented, how many of those people are convicted rapists?
The numbers are going up every day.
What are they?
If one person crosses the border illegally and are allowed to come back into the community, like Lake and Riley, and murders and rapes an American, that is one too many, because the instances are.
Where were you during the Trump administration? I did a story about a woman
who under Trump, when Trump had the most secure border.
I had a story of a woman who was raped and murdered by an undocumented person under the Trump administration. I didn't hear you talking about that, but you want to talk about Riley.
We did talk about it, actually, and that's the reason why we wanted funding for the border. It's why we wanted the border bill, which is why we wanted more Border Patrol agents. We wanted a stronger border.
You wanted a stronger border than you had a comprehensive border bill that was the most comprehensive bill in the history of this country. And Donald Trump said don't vote for it.
He had to use defense money to fund the border because Democrats,
Republicans helped put it together.
Look, at the end of the day, who had a more secure border? Was it the Biden-Harris administration or was it Donald Trump?
At the end of the day, who had a more secure border?
Yeah.
To me, that's kind of the comparison to that. To me, anyway, is kind of like saying you had a drunk driver that was going 100 miles an hour and you had a drunk driver that was going 90 miles an hour. Brian, which is worse? No, they're both bad. Okay, the border has not.
The border's much worse now. And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's administration is responsible for it. How can you not blame Kamala for all of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration? The Middle East is falling apart. Russia and Ukraine, people are upset about
Joe Biden.
So it's Joe Biden's administration.
So it's Joe Biden's fault. Anything that happens across the world. Okay, fair enough. Do you blame Donald Trump for COVID being made in a Wuhan lab in China? Because I never heard people like you blaming Trump for that. If you want to blame Joe Biden for everything, for your hangnail and anything that happens across the world, then why is it when it doesn't apply to Donald Trump? When he put us $8 trillion in debt, when we had a global pandemic where millions of people in this country died, and he was using those press conferences, coronavirus press conferences, as campaign rallies. Why do I? If you want to blame,
was he trying to keep the American people informed versus
by saying injecting yourself with disinfectant?
Our commander-in-chief can't even show up to talk to the American people after withdrawing from the presidency. It takes him days to say, okay, yeah, I'm not seeking presidency. His first comments after he decided he wasn't going to run for re-election was at Kamala Harris's press conference in Delaware. I mean, you can't compare somebody who speaks too much to the press.
He was positive for COVID during that time. You are aware of that, right?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
He was positive for COVID at that time. You are aware of that, correct?
He didn't wear his mask when he got
on
the airplane.
Supposedly, you think they're lying? Do you think they're lying? And he was
absolutely. Do I think he's lying? I think he wasn't feeling well. He was feeling sick. He was feeling the pressure of getting out of the race, and he had to go consider it and make up a reason why he was disappearing in the middle of the day.
So you're saying with no evidence
they say. I don't believe anything they say.
So you believe everything Donald Trump says, but you don't believe anything. So you're saying that Joe Biden didn't have COVID, that was a made-up lie, and he wasn't sick.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I really don't think he had COVID. Why was
I think that's crazy, but you're entitled to your opinion. But I think that's lunacy.
Positive for COVID. Where was his mask when he got on the airplane that day when he was heading off to Delaware? He was around all these people while he was in a restaurant.
He had COVID
when he had COVID, hugging people.
I remember that. He did not know that he had COVID at that time.
But obviously, he went on Air Force One, and he wasn't wearing a mask then either.
Sure. I mean, there are instances where he didn't know he had COVID, and then he knew he had COVID, and he was outside going into the plane, And I think that's very different than being around people without a mask.
He's going inside an airplane where there's reporters and staff and Secret Service. And
you're saying because he didn't wear a mask walking into Air Force One by himself, that must mean that they lied and it was fabricated and he didn't have COVID. David, you make a claim like that with literally no evidence to back it up.
I don't need evidence on this one. I'm just using my observations of
you
the
sound like Mike Lindell when he says the 2020 election was stolen, but that's here nor there. All right, I want to continue this conversation with you about immigration. I haven't even had an opportunity to talk to you about the Harris.
I'm over. I know you didn't need me for this long, and I apologize. I got you worked.
No, it's okay. Hey, listen, I love these conversations, David. I really do, and I want to be able to continue this with you. I'd like to have you coming back on next week because I want to get your thoughts on the economic plan of Kamala Harris, which she's released today. So I'd like to continue the conversation, David. I always appreciate it when you take the time to join us. Always a good conversation, my friend. And I hope to talk to you soon. Have a great weekend. Okay.
Always, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, David. All right, that's David Pollock, host of the David Pollock Show. I haven't heard that conspiracy theory yet. Apparently, Joe Biden faked that he had COVID. And how do we know this? Because he didn't wear a mask when he was walking by himself onto the plane. That's a new one for me. Coming up next, oh boy, this is going to be a lot of fun. He is a Republican pundit. He is a very popular social media conservative, as I would call him. And Carmine Sabia is going to be joining us next. He said, I really want to debate that Joe Walsh because Joe Walsh used to be a Trumper. He's very anti-Trump now. So these are opposite ends of the spectrum. They are going to get into a debate and a discussion, if that wasn't good enough for you just now. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to take a break. The great Joe Walsh will be debating Carmine Sabia next, right here. It's Pushing the Limits on PTL. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. I have all sorts of different people with different backgrounds and different political beliefs on this show. And if you listen to the show regularly, you'll know both of these guys. So a friend of mine, Carmine Sabia, who is a very popular conservative pundit, we were speaking the other day, and he said, boy, I'd really like to debate that Joe Walsh. Carmine is a staunch Donald Trump supporter. And then on the other side of things is somebody that's been doing my show for years, who I also have a ton of respect for. He used to be a Donald Trump supporter, and now he is obviously against Donald Trump and will be voting for Kamala Harris, also part of the Republicans for Harris. Of course, we're talking about former presidential candidate, former Congressman Joe Walsh. Gentlemen, I appreciate you both joining us. Joe, thank you for agreeing to do this. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Happy to be here.
Hi, good to be with you. Carmine, how are you, my friend?
Good to see you, Joe. And for the people watching, I'm friends with both of these guys. It's all good, but we're going to fight today.
All right. Well, we'll verbally fight. Let's get it on. I want to start. Let me start with you, Carmine. What do you make of Donald Trump's comments yesterday where he gives this award to a large donor, and then he makes these comments, and in the comments saying that this could be just as good, if not better, than the awards we give these members of our military because they're either dead or wounded? How do you defend that statement?
Sure. So taken on its face, it's an indefensible statement, right? Taken on its face. But I believe, and a lot of veterans I have spoken to believe, that what he was trying to say was that nobody wants that award. You don't want to be dead. You don't want to be riddled with bullets to get that award. It's much better to get an award if you're not dead or riddled with bullets. So I think what he was trying to say is it's not an award you want to get. Not that this award is particularly better or less than the other award. And I disagree with him on the prestige of the award.
Right.
I think
Joe, what do you say to that?
And by the way, this is one of the reasons I respect Carmine, because he's a straight shooter. It was a horrible, ugly, despicable thing to say. Carmine acknowledges that. It doesn't come out of nowhere, though. Trump has a history, right, of hating on our troops. And that's what think about what he said. A woman who gave a crap load of money to him and Republican candidates is like more honorable than those men in uniform who made the ultimate sacrifice or risked making the ultimate sacrifice on the battlefield. It's just further evidence that this guy hates our troops. And if the best you can say is he just kind of really didn't understand what he was saying, he's not fit to be commander in chief.
I disagree that he doesn't respect the troops, that he doesn't admire the troops. I think he does. I think, I've never heard him out of his mouth say anything disrespectful to the troops. John McCain aside, and my issues with that are well documented. I'm a John McCain fan all the way. Love Meghan, good family. But that being said, I don't take General Milley's word for it. You know that. I don't. I think General Milley has his own personal grudges with Trump. I don't think Trump understands military service. It's not really a tradition in his family. And I think he sometimes just speaks off the cuff. And like I told you the other day, not defending it, Trump likes to aggrandize. Okay, so he gave this medal, and this medal is great because I gave it, kind of thing, right? And so I think that he could come off maybe, if you hear him out of context, it comes off as something it's not. But like I said, I believe that he does care about the troops. I believe he loves this country. I don't see any other reason to go through all this stuff that he's had to go through.
Joe, let me ask you. Let me go to Joe now.
Just like he clearly doesn't understand what the Congressional Medal of Honor is. He doesn't. You can't even halfway think that Presidential Medal of Freedom is even close. I mean, Tiger Woods got the damn Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Yeah, no, it's
Donald
not.
Trump clearly does not understand what the highest medal that we give our military men and women is. He doesn't understand it, or he doesn't give a damn about it. Period.
I think he doesn't understand it. I'll be honest about that. I think he doesn't understand it, but I don't think that's a prerequisite for leading the free world. Here's my issues.
Good, and I appreciate that about Carmine. Thank you.
Thank you. But here's my issues, Joe. And may I ask a question, and then he can ask a
Go
question
ahead.
of me?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
So, Joe, my question is this, and you know I like to troll your Twitter page. You don't respond and fight with me anymore, which I liked when you did that. But I like to troll your Twitter page and get a response from you when I can. Here's my question, though, man. I understand you don't like Donald Trump. I get that. I get he gets under your skin. You are a supporter. You didn't like. I liked what I saw. Now, I was the opposite. I was not a supporter and became a supporter. So I'm the opposite. In 2015, I wanted anybody else but him, right? And then I saw him govern, and I'm like, hey, this is good. I got more money in my pocket. Things are looking good. Making a nice living. Things are great, right? My question to you, Joe, you and I believe, share the same values on economics, military, foreign affairs. Can you point to one policy of Kamala Harris that you're like, that's the one, I support that? Because I saw your comments on basically this communist economic policy she's rolling out. And I mean, is in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is this guy being a guy you hate more important than this woman implementing every single policy you possibly could hate?
Yeah, Carmine, I appreciate the question, my friend. And I get this question from hundreds of my former supporters every day. And the simple answer is it's not about hating Trump. Like I believe, Carmine, and you disagree with me, I get it. I believe he is an existential threat to our democracy, period. I believe that. It's not about my hate for him. I think he's really bad for the country. And so because I feel that way, again, this year, I'm going to have to vote for a presidential candidate with whom I disagree with on the vast majority of policy, just like I did with Biden in 2020. No doubt.
Fair enough. And again, yeah, I would disagree. I mean, if I believe this woman really wants to usher in communism. I mean, her policies scream communism. You know, and communism's always presented with a pretty bow, right? Let's get those rich guys because, 80% of people are poor. Let's get those rich guys. And everybody's like, yeah, let's get those rich guys. And then the bread lines start, right? So then my other question to you is, you have built an audience, right? And I know you didn't care. You didn't care when you put your career on the line to go against Trump. And I remember those days. You didn't have an audience. You didn't have a bunch of anti-Trump followers, right? So you were like, your audience actually fell because you went against Trump. And so what I'm saying is, what do you do now? Let's say Trump's eventually going to be gone, right? And your whole audience is built now of people that hate Trump and really hate Republicans. What happens when Trump's gone?
Carmine, I don't care. Maybe this is why I'm a lousy marketer. I mean it. I don't care. I say what I believe. I try to say what I believe every day. I did that on the radio. I did that as a member of Congress. I did that as a candidate. I do that when I go on TV. I do that on Twitter. I just try to say what I believe is right and wrong. I don't give a damn what career move I'm making. I don't give a damn where I am in a year or two or three. I don't think that way.
I think
and I know, Carmine, I know there are guys on all sides who think, if I take this stance, I'm going to start saying this because it's going to help my career or whatever. I don't think that way. I love this country. I think he's a threat to the country. So I'm going to do all I can to stop him, even if it makes me poor and penniless.
Yeah, Joe, I want to ask Joe quickly about this. Joe, as we know, and I think even Carmine would probably agree, Joe, how important this is. The fact that if Donald Trump loses in November, under no circumstance will he admit that he lost. He will never admit that he lost the 2020 election. You talk about this all the time, the threat to democracy. Can you explain to Carmine why this is so important to people like you and myself?
I'm asked every day, Joe, what do you mean by a threat to democracy? And this is always the first example I give. Like elections are like the heartbeat of our democracy. Every 2 years, we all make a deal. And every candidate makes a deal. We're going to give our best and we're going to try our hardest to win. But every 2 years, the people speak and we all respect what the people say. We accept the results. We peacefully transfer power.
Right.
Donald Trump won't do that. He didn't do it in 20. He did a lot worse. He tried to overthrow the result. And there's no way on God's green earth he will ever accept the election result this year. Man, that's scary stuff. And that is a direct attack on our democratic process. That alone is why I would never vote for him. If you're not American enough to concede and accept the results, you can't be in office. You shouldn't be.
Carmine, why doesn't that bother you as much as it bothers Joe and myself?
I think he'll accept the results, but they could win.
But
No, if he loses, Carmine.
If he loses, look, I'm not going to sit here and BS. No, I don't think he'll accept the results if he loses.
Is that kind of like, is that a big deal to you?
He's got a huge ego. I no doubt about that. The man has a huge ego. Is it a big deal for me? I don't like it. I mean, you can go read my tweets from, I just read one the other day because somebody pointed out to me when he didn't go to the inauguration, and I tweeted to him. I thought, not that he's going to listen to me, but it's like, I thought that was wrong, because a bedrock of our democracy and a bedrock of our republic is the peaceful transfer of power. It's very important. Even if you played your play, Al Gore felt like he was slighted, but.
And even Al Gore conceded, and even Hillary conceded. And I've been a candidate, and I've won and I've lost. The entire system depends upon the person who lost saying, damn it, it happened. The people spoke. I accept it. And if losing candidates don't say that, the system comes undone. And we're seeing that because his supporters don't accept results now. And now we got guys out in the states who may not certify the results. This is really scary stuff.
Here's my problem with that. Hillary conceded, but then Hillary and her Democrat friends spent the next 4 years literally using the words illegitimate president about Donald Trump. So you could concede and then call him illegitimate. I believe Karine Jean-Pierre said in one of her tweets that he stole it. And then, you have Stacey Abrams didn't concede. Stacey Abrams contended. So it's not just a Trump thing.
No, but my friend, to be technical, and I love you like a brother, you're my Irish brother. It is a technical thing, only in this regard. He's the only sitting president in American history who lost an election and did not concede and did not participate in the peaceful transfer of power. Look, all candidates have supporters who will never accept the results. Big deal. That's always been the case. I'm talking about the candidates, the men and women in the arena who make a deal. I'm going to run, put it all on the line, and I'm going to live according to what the people say. It's incumbent upon the candidates to accept that result.
I agree.
And he's the only one who didn't.
I agree. He should have accepted it, even though I have tremendous issues with the 2020 election. I don't believe it's stolen. I'm on record saying I do not believe it was stolen. I believe there was a liberal use of usurping the state legislatures to create massive mail-in ballot and drop-off boxes. I'm against, and I'll always be against, starting election voting in September. How really early of an advance do you need to vote?
And by the way, Brian, Carmine makes a really good point. And this is, again, what I appreciate about Carmine. If Trump had begun to say that in 2020, look, because of COVID, we've got states doing different things and all these automatic ballots being mailed. Like, come on, guys. Like, if Trump had talked like that in 20, but no, instead he said fraud, stolen, fraud, stolen.
Still does. And he references.
I believe the votes were real. There were real votes cast by real people. You're going to have some stragglers that there's going to be some fake votes, right? Some illegal votes in every election for all time, right?
Yeah.
You can't stop every human being but I don't think anything discernible that changed the course of the election. I think that the results are the results. I just don't like how they got to the results.
Yeah. Joe, let me ask this to Joe, and then Carmine, I want to get your thoughts on this. Joe, does it concern you? I imagine it does. Does it concern me if Donald Trump does win? The kinds of people he's going to have around him, the Sebastian Gorkas, the Stephen Millers, and if Kamala wins, I believe she's going to have some very competent, educated, and normal human beings working with her. I just feel like a Trump administration would be even 10 times more crazy than what we saw in 2016.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a real hard time having good people with him if Trump wins again. And look, I'm not an establishment guy. Kamala Harris will have good, competent people, but they'll be left of center people who I disagree with, but they'll be kind of within the 40-yard lines. I'm not a big fan of the establishment. This is the whole thing with Trump. Like, I think our system needed disruption. I think Carmine and I probably agree to that. It's just he's horrible and he's evil. And to your point, Brian, he's already signaled to us that if he wins, he's going to feel like he's got no effing restraints on him. And he's saying this, and that's un-American. That's really scary stuff.
Carmine, what do you say to that?
Sure. I think, first of all, I think he'll leave office after his 4 years are done. I don't think he's going to be like, I'm going to, he left, right? At the end of 2020, he left. He didn't want to leave, but he left. So he left, and he'll leave again.
Carmine sounds like my friend and former colleague, Mick Mulvaney, who wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal a week or two before the 2020 election entitled, "Oh, don't worry, Donald Trump will peacefully accept the results of the election." Who knows, man, what Trump will try to do.
Yeah, I think, I do think he'll have competent people around him, because I'll tell you why. No matter what people say, people in D.C., they are, I don't want to say anything to get me in trouble, but they're like magnets to those jobs, right? I mean, anybody could be president. They are magnets to those jobs. They want that closeness to power. And I think you'll get good people. I think Trump will hire good people. I pray he hires better people than I think he had last time. Listen, for any president, you have to hire people that are on board with your agenda. When the people you hire are behind your back trying to undermine your agenda, this is a bad thing. Yeah. And there was too many establishment people in the first administration. Mm-hmm. I think you need to have people that are competent, good at their jobs, but believe in the same vision that he believes in. Right. And I believe in a more nationalist vision. I don't believe in an isolationist vision. I think that's dangerous to our national security. I think all three of us are in agreement here.
Carmine, Brian, here's one policy difference you asked me, Carmine. If Kamala Harris wins, she'll support Ukraine and Zelensky. If Trump wins, he'll support Putin. I think that's a clear difference.
I don't think he'll support Putin. I think he'll support ending this war, this forever war that is just funneling money to the military-industrial complex and costing hundreds of thousands of lives of Ukrainians and Russians, when there is somewhere you can meet in the middle on here. This is not like Israel. This is not the same situation as Israel, when the surrounding countries are like, their starting point is, we want all the Jews dead. You can't negotiate from that position. But I think you can negotiate a peace here with Putin and with Zelensky that I believe that the military-industrial complex does not want to see happen. They don't care how many hundreds of thousands of people are dead, as long as you're pumping money back in to make more missiles, more bullets, more jets. So I think that we've gone more crazy over there, and we're dancing on our toes on the line of World War III there.
This is, and again, just one real quick point, Brian. This war isn't being driven by us. These are the Ukrainian people who for 3 years have been defending the sovereignty of their land. They're going to end this war when they get their country back.
But I think, it's not as simple as that over there with Ukraine, right?
Carmine, it's not our fight. It's not.
No, it's not. No, if we backed out of it, right, it'd be over. This
is their country that was invaded. They will decide when they end this war.
But they're using our checkbook to do it, Joe.
No. You know what? They're using their checkbook. They're using France's checkbook. They're using NATO's checkbook. They're using the checkbook of the free Western world, which is a damn good thing, standing up to an evil dictator. Carmine, come on.
I'm not going to defend Vladimir Putin here, but you have to understand that
Trump will. We'll let Trump do that.
You have these sections, right, that are Russian speaking, that are traditionally, these were Russian. It's a very convoluted place over there. There's no
invade Ukraine. Carmine, did Putin invade Ukraine? Yes or no?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. Stop. Stop.
But it's not that simple.
Yeah, it is.
It's not that simple because you have sections of Ukraine that want to be part of Russia.
You're losing the audience. I'm losing the audience. He invaded a sovereign country. End of story.
Correct. And Donald Trump refuses to call out Vladimir Putin, where Joe Biden has called him an evil dictator and among other things. Joe, I want to give you this opportunity to talk to Carmine and ask him some things, but I guess I would say this. You talk to all sorts of different Donald Trump supporters. Some are crazy lunatic conspiracy theorists. We all both know that Carmine's a good dude. He's an intelligent guy, but he's supporting Donald Trump no matter what. So in regards to that, what would you say or ask Carmine of his support for Donald Trump?
No, and Carmine and I have talked about this a little bit, and everybody listening to us needs to understand Carmine's a rock solid conservative. I've never and never will question his principles. You can be a rock solid conservative and still support Trump. You can be a rock solid conservative and oppose him. I guess that's the point I'd make to both he and I. I disagree with Carmine's support of Trump, but I don't call into question his motives. He's a conservative. He's made a different decision than I have. What I hear from my former supporters all the time, that if you did what I did as a conservative opposing Trump, somehow you sold out and you abandoned your principles. Carmine, I don't think you believe that about me, do you?
No, but I do say it to you sometimes on Twitter to try and get you to argue with me.
I have thousands of people fire at me every day.
I try, and Brian knows I love to troll and start the fight, right? But no.
But you acknowledge that you can be a conservative on either side of this Trump question, right?
I Meghan McCain is a friend, and I love her, and she's a hardcore conservative. She hasn't sold out any of her values, and she, and I put you and Meghan in a certain camp, and I put Anna Navarro and some others in a different camp. Whereas I don't have Joe Walsh and Meghan McCain coming out going, "Yay, abortion in the 9th month," and let's get behind all these liberal policies. You get Anna Navarro, and she goes on The View, and I'm a Republican. Now here's all the Democrat positions I support.
She doesn't but Carmine, to be fair, she doesn't celebrate abortion. She celebrates the woman's right to choose, which to me are different things.
Let's take abortion out of it even for a second. She and others like her, Bill Kristol, suddenly they have very liberal positions. They support very Democrat liberal ideas. And to me, that's grifting. Well, whereas Joe and Meghan, who are still conservatives, and like me, I piss off, I don't know if I could say that here, but I anger Trump supporters sometimes when I'm like, yo, he should have done that. Like, I just heard the metal comment, literally, because I've been working all day. I just heard it 5 minutes before I came on the show. And I said to my friends, I'm sitting there, we're working, and I said, it's indefensible. And every one of them were like, that's indefensible. Like, we agreed with it, right? It's indefensible.
It's like I'm Republicans for Harris. I'm part of a group called Republicans for Harris. You look at what Kamala Harris proposed today, these price controls for groceries. A stupid, terrible policy. Many Republicans for Harris might applaud that policy. Many will try to ignore that she put forward this policy. Or some Republicans for Harris, like me, will say, bad idea, terrible policy, but I'm still supporting her because Donald Trump is he's a lawless, un-American psychopath. So it's not about policy to me.
That's what I wanted to
understand. Threat here.
That's what I wanted to understand with you, because I'm saying she's going against everything you believe in, and you're still going to cast a vote for her. And that's a bridge I can't cross. That's a bridge.
Is she really? But hold on. Is she really going against everything Joe Biden believes in? For example, giving
not Joe Biden.
Treating the LGBTQ community with respect, not attacking transgenders, not attacking transgenders. The top 1%, the biggest tax breaks for the rich under Donald Trump. Is she really going after all of Joe Walsh's principles when she talks about equality? When she talks about what do you mean? No, I don't understand.
Not on equality. Not on equality. But I haven't seen Trump come out and say anything negative about let's put LGBTQ people in camps or something.
The far right is against the far right is against gay marriage. They're against
Donald Trump or the far right. You talk about Donald Trump or the far right. It's two different things.
Okay, well, a lot of the people on the far right are going to be voting for Donald Trump,
and a lot of people in the KKK are going to vote for somebody else. A
lot of people in the KKK are going to be voting for Donald Trump. Guys like David Duke. So let's be factually accurate with that.
If a serial killer, we don't know he's a serial killer yet. He still has the right to vote. Votes for Kamala Harris. 10 years from now, we find out that serial killer voted for Kamala Harris. Does Kamala Harris support serial killing? You want to attribute so many people who are voting for Trump and saying, well,
if you could find me one prominent racist bigot that is going to be voting for Harris, you let me know. I've been to both.
Voted for Biden.
I've been to both rallies, my friend. I've been to Trump rally in the last 2 months. I've been to a Harris rally. They're completely different. 99.9.
That doesn't matter. I'm worried about what the candidate said. If Trump came out tomorrow attacking black people, attacking the LGBT community, that would be a line in the sand I couldn't cross.
He does. Okay, let's talk about that. Joe, Donald Trump going after Harris's blackness, right? He continues to call her stupid. I mean,
she is stupid.
Oh, come on, Carmine.
Joe, you think this is an intelligent woman?
Stop, my friend, because you're better than that. That's something Seb Gorka or some idiot would say. You're not an idiot.
But she's not right.
Carmine, let me just ask a simple question. Do you know her? Because I don't.
No, but I've heard her speak.
Okay, Carmine, you've heard Donald Trump speak. Is he bright? Come on now. That's when we get to that level of discourse, like Kamala Harris is dumb. Like, you don't know her. I don't know her. There's no way she's not a fairly intelligent woman. Disagree all you want with her policies. But we can't go down that road.
But I think her policies are dumb and she's a bad public speaker.
Okay, hold on. That's different. You may think her policies are dumb, but to call that woman dumb, uneducated, stupid, that's silly, ugly, divisive stuff that Trump engages in. You're better than that.
But what I worry about, Joe, is that she's a puppet. She's a marionette, right? Because here's Kamala Harris. Here's all my positions I had in 2019. And now here I are in 2024, and I don't believe any of these things anymore.
Oh,
I have
brother,
changed all my
brother. Hey, then get in line, right? Get in line, because Donald Trump was a pro-choice Democrat not so long ago. What's his name? J.D. Vance thought Trump was Hitler 3 or 4 years ago. Come on now. All politicians do that. Moderate to try to get elected.
But J.D. Vance thinking something and then saying, yeah, but I saw him govern, and I'm on board with that now, and I changed my mind.
That's one way to explain it. Yeah.
Kamala Harris hasn't given a reason why her positions have suddenly changed. Suddenly, she's not for Medicare for all. Suddenly, she's not for an open border. Suddenly, she's all these changes now that she's made. She's suddenly not for packing the Supreme Court.
And to be fair, I've been on record saying, who are you? Tell us where you stand. There are a lot of never Trumpers who are applauding her changes because she's moving toward the middle. I want to find out how real and sincere these are. I kind of believe that Kamala Harris has grown and has kind of grown into herself. And I think she's much more in command as a candidate now than she was 4 years ago. But I was always a politician who didn't change. So I'm always suspect of politicians who change, but I'm going to give her a break. But again, last point, it's not about policy to me. It's about stopping that man.
That's the difference. And so Kamala Harris has grown as a candidate only because she's starting on third base now. And I think if you had an open Democrat primary, Gavin Newsom wins it or Gretchen Whitmer wins it, not Kamala Harris. I think.
I don't know about that, because remember, Carmine, it was the Biden-Harris re-election campaign. From the start, she's the VP. She's the natural heir. I mean, that made all the sense in the world transitioning to her, I think, when Biden decided.
Well, you didn't have time. You didn't have time for a primary. You couldn't do a 5-boost primary.
But also give her some credit. She's run a hell of a campaign for 3 or 4 weeks, hasn't she?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I do give her credit.
I want to give you guys a last word chance here. Both of you have huge social media followings. A lot of people care. I'm one of them. What both of you have to say. The political climate that we're in right now, we're just a few months out from what could be the largest voter turnout election in American history. Carmine, I'll start with you now. What do you make of where we're at right now? Where do you see this thing going? Who's going to win?
Make a prediction. Okay. I see in the polls today that the Kamala momentum is coming down a little bit, and Trump's coming back up. She'll get a bump in the polls next week with the DNC. You're not going to really know where things are, I think, until about 2 to 3 weeks into September. I'm still going to predict Donald Trump victory. I believe that, and I would disagree with my friend Joe, where I think that Kamala Harris's policies are a much bigger threat to the Republic than whatever Trump is, right? And I think the only thing I would say that I think all three of us could probably agree on here is I have deep, deep concerns about November, and whoever wins, the civil unrest that could happen in this country, one way or the other. We are at a tipping point, I think, not seen since the days of Abraham Lincoln in this country, and it concerns me. And I see people talk about civil war and stuff like that so willy-nilly and just fling those words around, not knowing how serious and devastating it could be. So I would say to people that whoever wins, accept it, move on with your life. You can vote again in 4 years.
I think it's going to be really close. I don't know who's going to win. I think it's going to be super, super close.
Very.
I know this, no matter who wins, after this election, the country's going to be 100 times more divided, exhausted. And like Carmine, I worry about where this thing is heading. And I would just close, Brian, with this. One of these two candidates, Kamala Harris, if she loses, she will concede. She will accept the will of the people. She'll congratulate Donald Trump, and she will participate in the peaceful transfer of power. The other candidate won't do any of that. That's
very telling.
That's the threat.
Very, very telling. Well, I respect both of you very, very much, and this has been a great conversation, and hopefully maybe we can do it again sometime.
Hey,
Good.
Brian, compliments to you for having this kind of show, brother.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate that. Brian. Compliments to both of you, and Joe, you agreeing to do this, and I'd love to do it again down the road.
Hey, Carmine?
Absolutely. Yep. Yes, Joe.
Shut up, you big jerk.
I almost gave you the finger.
Thanks,
I think
guys.
you can do that. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Carmine. Love you guys. Have a great weekend.
Take care.
Appreciate both of you guys really much. Two really good people who disagree on a number of different issues, but at the same time, we come to an end where we all agree on something. We're worried about November, regardless of who wins. They both mentioned it. Both civil unrest. And yeah, I'm with them. Thought that was a really good, productive conversation. All right, let me mention this real quickly. If you enjoy what I do and you enjoy this show, and we have great conversations like that on a regular basis, I thought that was a really good debate and a really good constructive conversation, then do me a favor. We are an independently owned show. What does that mean? We're like public radio. We rely on people like you. So the first thing you can do for us, if you enjoy the show, check out the new website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. The second thing you do, sign up for the free newsletter. We've got merchandise up there on the website. So mugs, hats, shirts, affordable prices. If you don't want to buy merchandise, totally fine. We have a donate button on the main page of the website, again, which is pushingthelimits.live. Doesn't matter what it is, $5, $10, $20. We appreciate anything. We appreciate your generosity. Whatever you can afford monthly, give it a shot. It's right there on pushingthelimits.live. And we really do appreciate your support. All right, we're going to do a short segment, next segment. And we are going to take some phone calls at 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Please join my friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. They've got they always have great promotions. In August, if anybody hits a taxable jackpot and you're actively playing in a machine with your card in the machine, you're going to get $20 in free slot play within 24 hours. How cool is that? I'm going there today for my prime rib dinner. The prime rib is unbelievable there. The food is great. Check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. All right, your calls on the other side, your thoughts on that discussion, debate, and of course, your thoughts on the comments that Donald Trump made yesterday in regards to saying, giving an award to one of his very charitable donors, and saying this award might be just as even, if not better, than someone who died or was wounded getting an award. It's absurd. Take your calls on that too. 702-221-7283. Take a quick break. Be back after this with your calls. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up here in just a little bit, Courtney Tillia is going to be joining us, former special education teacher, and now she's turned into a millionaire by switching careers and being an OnlyFans model. So very interesting story. She'll be joining us in studio. I did promise I would take some phone calls. Really, really good debate. And I thought it was productive. Carmine Sabia, conservative pundit, Trump supporter, versus Joe Walsh, also my friend, former presidential candidate, who is very anti-Donald Trump like I am. Your thoughts on that? 702-221-7283. Let's start off with Nelson, who's first up on PTL. Hi, Nelson. Thanks for calling in.
What's going on, Brian? How are you?
Good. What'd you make of that little debate we had there?
Well, little comical from the man always to the right, who was saying that who supports. He's talking about civil unrest. Look, we don't know how this election is going to go, but if Trump wins, you're not going to see Democrats storm the Capitol like we saw on January 6th. It's not going to happen. It's on the other side what they're going to do. But the thing is that we have a different administration in there. If Kamala wins, Vice President Kamala Harris wins. We have an administration who's just not just going to stand back and stand by if this type of storm.
Right.
They will experience probably the full weight of the federal government to protect the U.S. Capitol this time around. So it's going to be very interesting as to if their orange Cheetos Lord and Savior loses.
Well, listen, I get what you're saying, Nelson, and I agree with you. I think if we're going to see violence as far as the election goes, if Trump wins, I don't think we're going to see like a January 6th or anything like that from the left. So I'm with you on that. Point well taken. At least we hope, right? I appreciate the call, Nelson. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next up on PTL. What's up, Joseph?
Yeah, hey, Brian. Okay, here's my piece on that. Is that the reason, hearing what Trump says about the Medal of Honor comparison with the Medal of Freedom, I find that disturbing and disgusting. And that's the reason why Trump is hating the military, is because he was put in the military academy for behavior issues. And this is why he wants to seek revenge on the military.
Yeah. I agree. I just think, as even Carmine admitted, which I appreciate, is that what he said yesterday is completely indefensible. But who are the people that are defending him? The MAGA deplorables like J.D. Vance. I mean, they curl up into a pretzel and they try to defend and say that him giving an award to a rich donor was equal to or even better than, according to Donald Trump, the Medal of Honor. I mean, and his excuse for it, and there is no excuse, but his excuse for it was, well, they're either dead or wounded. I mean, wouldn't that even, to any logical, decent human being, wouldn't that give you more reason to give that person the award? And so their family can see it? Or if somebody's wounded or an amputee? I mean, I cannot believe that people would defend and still vote for this guy. It drives me crazy. And I'm with Joe Walsh on this, okay? I'm with Joe Walsh on this. Forget about policy. How could you vote for this guy, the scum? Oh, well, I like some of his policies. Well, come on, man. What more do you want this guy to say? He attacks women, the LGBTQ community. He defends the Confederate flag. He's a rapist. He's a 34-count felon. And then yesterday, again, going on the same tailspin as, I don't respect John McCain because he was captured. He's saying an award he gave to a rich donor friend of his was maybe even better than the Medal of Honor. How do you vote for this guy? I've had it. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Roy. Roy is next up on PTL. Hello, Roy.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Character matters. The man has no character. I don't know how anybody can support him. I don't care about policies or anything. And the man has no policies. We're still waiting for his health plan. Remember he was going to give that in 2 weeks? It's been 8 years.
Yeah, well, that's a lie. That's another lie.
Everything he says is a lie. How do you trust anything this man says?
Well, I trust him when he says he doesn't respect John McCain because he was captured, because he doesn't respect our brave men and women in uniform. I trust when he says this award is even better than the Medal of Honor because, again, he would rather give an award to somebody that donates to his campaign than somebody who lost a limb fighting in war. Let's just call it for what it is. Trump would rather award people like Tiger Woods than somebody that goes to war and almost dies or dies.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, we understand that he's a draft dodger, Mr. Bone Spurs.
Yep.
It just boggles my mind how anybody can support this man just based on his character.
I agree.
It just amazes me.
You know,
and J.D. Vance, oh my God,
defending him.
You know, Trump. He will never even if he got in, he will never last 4 years.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, Roy. I agree with you, and I appreciate your call. J.D. Vance, in regards to these despicable statements that Trump made, said he was saying some nice things about her. I don't think his complimenting and saying a nice word about a person who received a Medal of Freedom is in any way denigrating those who receive military honors. You know, I get the sense. I wonder what J.D. Vance. I wonder what he can tell us. What Donald Trump's genitals taste like. I mean, for lack of a better term. Sorry to be a little graphic there, but I mean, this is a joke. Anybody who would defend these comments, a joke. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Who's next up on the line? Let's go to Mark. Mark, what's going on, man?
Hey, Brian. David Pollock and this Carmine are in the same basket. They're both MAGA. Again, Carmine, if you're listening, you're a garbage pail for again attacking Kamala personally when you don't know anything about her, but yet you attack her personally.
Well, he was definitely wrong in doing that.
Brian, I don't get. This is what I don't get. Also. Why is it? See, I'm 65 years old. I served in the military, and not one time in my entire life did anyone have to explain what I meant to say. No one ever has to do that. I explain it myself.
Oh, I agree.
But why does everybody have to explain what Trump actually meant to say?
Because
If
it's
he
their
can't
defense.
explain,
It's their
of course
defense.
they are.
It's their Mark. It's their defense mechanism. I remember when he talked about the possibility of injecting yourself with disinfectant. They were making excuses for him then.
Well,
Oh,
you
you know,
lied
he
to
was
your
just
body.
he was
You
just
lied to your body.
joking. I mean, they curl themselves into a pretzel for this guy. I don't understand why. I don't understand why.
Brian, one more thing. They still stand by, and we keep repeating the same thing. A 34-count felon, a known rapist, a guy who stole money from people in his Trump University where Trump had to plead no contest and return $25 million. Also bought up a land in New Mexico with a promise to pay, which he never paid, and promised the people that he was going to build condos out there, collected the money, and never built them. A lot of people don't know about that story.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this guy's been a snake his entire life, and you're absolutely right. And again, listening to J.D. Vance, who once compared Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, make excuses for these despicable comments. Did you see Nancy Mace on CNN yesterday? What a despicable, awful human being she is. And guess what? It has nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. It has nothing to do with her being sexually assaulted, which is awful. She's just a terrible human being. She intentionally yesterday mispronounced Kamala Harris's name. Intentionally. And then when she was asked point blank, do you think it's appropriate for Donald Trump questioning her blackness? She wouldn't even answer that question directly because she's a coward and she's a shill. She's a coward and she's a shill. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to join the show. Again, 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Kava, who's next up on PTL. What's up, Kava?
Hi, Brian. How are you today?
Good. What's on your mind?
So I want to address something that you were just talking about with your guest today.
Yep.
And I'm sick of it, MAGA. I've had with you deplorables going after immigrants because I am one myself. I came from Ecuador, okay? And I always hear you guys say, well, come in and do the right thing. Come in the right way. How about you guys don't attack the Capitol? How about you guys are the ones to talk. And you guys disrespect women. You disrespect John McCain because he was captured. Come on, who's the real loser here? Let's just be real.
Well, yeah,
Come on.
I'm trying to think to myself because it appears to me, and you could tell me if you disagree, the people that Donald Trump hates the most, besides black women, I think we all know he's got a problem with them, powerful people that are brave, intelligent people that are far more educated than him, brave people like John McCain who risked their life for this country. The people that Donald Trump hates the most are the people that are the opposite of him. They're either war heroes or they're philanthropists, or they're extremely intelligent and far more outspoken than him. They're more educated than him. They're more successful than him. These are the kinds of people that Donald Trump hates the most. because he knows deep down inside he is the most insecure man possibly on the planet, with his fake hair transplants and the 8 layers of orange makeup he puts on in the morning, the lies, the deceit. Women hate him. Any woman that's ever been around him can't stand him. Anybody that he's ever dated or married. So, you know, he despises the people that are more successful to him. And he also tries to insult and attack anybody who disagrees with him on anything. This is who Donald Trump is.
Yep.
This man is not changing. What we heard from Donald Trump yesterday and what we will continue to hear, very similar to the comments he made about John McCain. And then these idiots that call into this show that make the case that, oh, I don't believe General Milley. It's absurd, right? It's absurd.
It's ridiculous. It makes no sense to me.
It makes
Like,
absolutely.
how many immigrants who do more for this country than MAGA has done their entire lives?
Hey, listen,
It's
man,
ridiculous.
you are not going to hear an argument from me, Cobb. I hope you have a good weekend. Thank you so much for calling in. All right, we got to take a break, and when we come back, boy, this woman's story is so cool. Her name is Courtney Tillia, and you've seen her on Barstool Sports, TMZ, Dr. Phil's show, The Breakfast Club. She's been in Maxim. You know, and it's a problem we have throughout this country where teachers are not getting paid enough money. This is a smart woman who worked with special education students, but she changed her career because she wasn't making enough money, and she became an OnlyFans model. Now she's making literally millions of dollars. Her story is quite interesting. Courtney's going to be joining us next in studio. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. It's Pushing Limits right here on KSHP. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate the calls last segment. A little programming note for you. I will not be here on Monday. Yes, liberal talk show host Doug Basham is going to be filling in for me on Monday. Why, you ask? Well, I'm going to be taking a trip to California. I need a little rest and relaxation, right? I'm going to be going to check out a couple of my favorite bands from the 90s. I'm actually seeing one of my favorite bands from the 90s tonight, Filter. I was hanging out with Richard Patrick last night, if anybody cares. And if you need to know, in LA, if anybody cares, Stone Temple Pilots touring with Live and Our Lady Peace. So they're not making a stop in Vegas. So I'm going out there for a couple nights. And so Doug Basham's going to be filling in for me on Monday, in case anybody cares. So I always love interviewing all sorts of different people from different backgrounds. We just had former presidential candidate Joe Walsh on. Interview all sorts of different people. Evan Stone, who's been in the porn industry for decades, ran for senator. He comes on this show a lot. This is a very unique story. Her name is Courtney Tillia. She's done this show before. You've seen her on TMZ. She's been in Maxim and People and Barstool Sports. They featured her on The Breakfast Club and The Dr. Phil Show. Her story is very unique because she used to be a teacher, right? And I would imagine living paycheck to paycheck. And now she's making millions of dollars and decided to change her career. And she does a number of different things, including being an OnlyFans model, a very successful one at that. Courtney, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me. It is hot.
It is. It is really hot in here. Can we lower the temperature? By the way, I complain about this literally every single day. I say it's too hot in here, right? Every day I say that. It's like 75 degrees in here.
And it's hot outside.
Yes.
So you like come in hot and you're just like, oh.
Yes. Well, luckily we have a producer here, Nunchuck.
Thank you.
He's lowering the
I
temperature.
appreciate
for us.
that.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you being here, Courtney.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So let's go back to square one here real quickly. Is it fair to say you were living paycheck to paycheck when you were a teacher, right? Were you like on food stamps or any of that stuff?
You know, at one point, yes.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, so coming to the end of the school year, teachers don't actually get paid during the summer. I think there's this like big idea that
really? I thought they
most
did.
of us are not getting paid during the summer.
You don't get a paycheck?
So you
I didn't even know that.
at the beginning of the school year, you choose, do you want to be paid for the full year?
Right.
Or do you want to get paid for the school year? But if you get paid for the full year, it takes $1,000 out of your check for the rest of the year.
Oh,
and so I was making like $4,000 a month. And I was then gonna make $3,000. That's $1,500 every 2 weeks. Like that.
And you have 4 kids, right?
4 kids. And so I
Jeez.
was not getting paid over the summer, and most teachers weren't because that big of a deduction for the summer was just too big. And so I walked in on a meeting of teachers, and they were like talking about, you know, what do you do during the summer to like make it? And everyone was like, oh, you get food stamps. Like that is just how it is. It was like a very normal conversation. Like that's just what you do, and that's what most teachers are doing to survive.
People think as a teacher, that's so sad. And as a teacher, you just show up when school starts. No, you have to put together a plan. Can you explain your normal day when you were a teacher?
Yeah. So I got up, went to school. You have to be there an hour before students get there.
Right.
You're there for the school. You also had to
really
stay
early, too.
I know. And then you stay an hour after in case you have to do parent phone calls or meetings and stuff like that. And then after that, I did special ed. So I had IEPs that I had to write, which is a 40-page document that each one is different. And then lesson plans that you have to turn into the district. You have like so much that's going into it that I'm like, it is way beyond a 40-hour-a-week job.
People don't realize, and you have to love being around kids. Of course, you have 4 kids of your own. So obviously it was a passion of yours, right?
Absolutely.
You love teaching and being around the kids. And this might be a little bit off topic, but it's about teachers. And what do you make of the attacks, particularly those sometimes on the far right, but we don't need to get into that, but just attacks on teachers? They're indoctrinating our kids. They're making our kids turn gay. I mean, there's so many wonderful people like you that have taught and continue to teach kids on a daily basis. And I get so angry hearing that. Do you take that personal?
Yeah, it's crazy to me, especially because it's people who have no idea the profession, the ins and outs, what all goes into it, and actually how like we are controlled in what we are able to even teach. Like we have to follow guidelines and things like that we like no student left behind means that we're teaching to a test all day. Like it is not like, oh, I'm just going to like put in my little seed of things that I want for your kid, or like, it's absolutely shocking.
Did you ever have any issues like that?
You know, I really didn't, because I taught such severe students.
Special education.
Special ed. All my students had autism.
Which has got to be, and I feel for these kids.
Yeah.
And I know I went to school with some kids that were autistic, really nice, kind-hearted kids.
Love them.
It's not their fault. And most of them that I came in were very intelligent.
Oh, brilliant.
Very intelligent.
Brilliant.
Yeah, very intelligent. but they struggle with communication.
Yes.
And you have to be very patient,
Yes.
right? And people don't realize how hard that is. It's a very difficult, it's a skill that you have to have, right?
Right. We live in a world that's made for one type of person, really, a way of communication. So anything that alters from that makes it very difficult. And because they don't speak, or a lot of them don't, like simple things like I have a headache, I'm thirsty, like things that we very much take for granted are very difficult, and it's frustrating.
God, I can't imagine how frustrating that must be for
Yeah.
them. If somebody told you way back then, you're working with all these special needs kids, that you would have millions of fans of your own in 2024 and a huge following on social media, and you'd be making all these appearances, would you have believed it?
I always wanted that, but I didn't know how to get there, so probably not.
So explain that to me. When you say you always wanted it, what is it exactly when you were a teacher? And how many years ago was this again, if you don't mind me asking?
I retired in 2017.
Okay, so
So
not
it's
that
been-
long ago,
yeah.
but it's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit.
Almost 10 years. So explain that to me when you say I always wanted it. What was
Yeah.
it exactly that entered your mind when you thought about these things? What did you want?
My first job that I ever wanted to be was an actress. And my family was
Oh.
kind of like, kind of like pick something else. We don't really
Mhm.
think that that's the best for you. And so I always like loved people, loved having an impact. I've always been a leader. I was actually the commander of my ROTC unit in
that's cool.
high school. So I've always been a leader. So I've always like done stuff like that. So having an audience and having an impact isn't new for me,
Mhm.
but I was just like, I ended up like, I loved being a teacher, but I'm like, I've got this.
Yeah.
I don't have the platform or the audience or
Right.
like the impact that I'm wanting
You
to
sure
have.
do. You sure do now.
I'm
that's for
having
sure.
the impact now.
Yes. So take me back to that first conversation with your family. Like you're struggling, living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, you like working with kids, but you're also working long hours. You have kids
Yeah.
of your own, and you decide, gosh, I just want to try something different. I think I want to resign and retire, or whatever word you want to use, from teaching, and I want to be an OnlyFans model. And I would imagine maybe members of your family didn't know exactly what that entailed. So when you went through the details with them, the
Yeah.
first time you had that conversation with your family, how did that go down?
So it started a little while back. I decided I wanted to do fitness modeling, and my husband started taking my progress pics and posting them on my Instagram and growing my Instagram. And he came to me and he's like, "You actually have a request for a little custom, like 3 minutes for like, I think it was like $200 or something like that." And I was like, "Ooh, I don't know about that. Like, I'm a teacher. I'm like that good little teacher." But I was like, "Oh my God, $200. Like we are struggling. Like that is groceries. Like
Right. That's a bill.
that is a lot."
Yeah.
It takes me 2 days as a teacher to make that. So I decided to do it, and I was like, wait, that was really fun. And like, now we can eat for the week.
So what was it? Explain this to me. What exactly entailed in that video?
It was a masturbation
Oh,
video.
okay. We don't,
It
have,
was-
we don't have to go into too much
Oh,
detail
yeah.
there. Okay.
It was a
So-
self-pleasure.
Okay. Wow. I'd be really rich. Anyway, so you're doing something that maybe you would normally do anyway,
Right.
but you're doing it on camera.
Yes.
And it's public. There's a lot of people, some that are comfortable doing that on camera. I think it's fair to say most people in general do not want other people to see them doing that, unless it's maybe your partner or something.
I feel like we have more voyeurism than people give on to.
Maybe that might be true, and you're probably right on that. But I think if you talk to a lot of people, they would say it's one thing, to do that in front of your partner. It's another thing to put it out there on the World Wide Web. How did your husband feel about that?
Oh, he was so supportive.
That's really important.
Yeah, I was so supportive. When it came down the line, I'd already started doing like nude stuff and selling stuff through Snapchat before.
And you're making decent money doing this.
Yeah,
to start even.
Yeah, before OnlyFans was even around.
Wow.
We're doing
Wow.
really well. And then I saw OnlyFans starting to come around, and I was getting like in trouble on community guidelines on Instagram for just like lingerie stuff. And I was like, this is so annoying. And then I started seeing the OnlyFans stuff, and I was like, what do you think if I get OnlyFans? Like maybe I can make like $500 a month. Like how cool would that be? And he's like, yeah, do it. Like, I don't know what's taking you so long. And so I joined, and then my first month made $1,700. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm doing this.
How much are you making now?
I make at least a teacher salary every month.
A teacher salary, so you're making like 50 grand a month.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum.
When there's media and stuff,
That's just
obviously,
OnlyFans.
That's just
We're not even
OnlyFans.
talking about. Are you a millionaire?
Yes.
You're a millionaire now. Wow,
Yeah.
that is. Okay, so I have different feelings on this. First of all, I think it's great that you're successful, that you're doing what you enjoy. I am all for this 150. Okay, I'm not one of these right-wing evangelicals. Oh my God, it's so bad. Is your family okay with it?
Oh, absolutely.
See,
Very
that's great.
supportive.
That's if you didn't have a supportive husband and you didn't have a supportive family, this would be
Yeah.
a very
It
different
would
situation,
be,
right?
but and it sucks to say that though, because like I am so much more myself than I've ever been, and doing what I absolutely love. Like
Right.
to have family be like, we don't support you being yourself sucks.
Yeah.
You know? So like,
You're lucky in that aspect that
yes.
you have a good, because there's a lot of people that do what you do. I interview some of them,
Yeah.
and they don't even talk to their family anymore.
Yeah.
How sad is that, right?
I mean, my mom and dad are not around, but that was not because of OnlyFans. That is like
Other stuff.
childhood stuff. Yes.
That sucks. But yeah, do you
But I
have
have
some?
my mother-in-law is so supportive. She's even like, man, if I was young like you, I'd have an OnlyFans.
That's
And
super.
like all of my like aunts and uncles are like, we're so glad you're
Is
so
it-
happy.
Is it weird though to even bring this up, but the fact that maybe some of your blood family members have seen some of your videos, is that weird for you?
I mean, I think that
It'd be
they've
weird- it'd be
unfollowed
weird,
me
I
on
don't
the internet. As soon as I started posting like lingerie, I think they were like, we're friends, but we're unfollowing you kind of a thing. And I
Yeah.
totally support whatever's most comfortable for them.
What is
you
it-
know, nudity isn't a big deal for me anymore. I grew up religious,
It
so
shouldn't be.
it was a huge deal,
Right.
but it's just like it shouldn't be a big deal that we've made it into. So
Have you ever had, I would imagine the answer would be yes, but I'm interested in like someone that approached you, or a couple or a man or woman or whatever, that offered you an enormous amount of money to spend the night with them.
I get offers all the
Can you give
time.
me an example like of a situation where that happened?
Honestly, it's in my DMs all day,
Really?
nonstop. I
What's
could
a
open my
typical-
DMs
a
for you
typical
right now
DM?
and just be like,
Hey, I want to spend the night with you and have
Oh,
sexual relations with you.
yes,
What's
I
like
wanna
a money?
fuck you, or
Yeah.
like,
Watch. Oh,
oh,
yeah,
I'm
yeah. That's
sorry.
right. That's okay. What is like your typical amount of money that
To be honest, people are cheap.
really?
Yeah.
What's the most amount of money any offered you?
I'm trying to think. It's a few thousand, but I'm
Yeah.
like,
That seems cheap.
it is cheap. And I was like, I'm not doing
I was
it.
expecting more than that.
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
And I heard because the like top porn stars are doing like 5K for a situation like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, it's more like 100K.
If
con-
somebody offered
consideration.
you 6 figures, is that something that you
I
would
would
entertain?
consider. Yeah,
Would your husband be okay with that?
absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. I just have things in place like background checks and testing and stuff that
of-
would have to be put in. But
Of
yes,
course.
absolutely.
I know that there are a percentage of people in relationships that are married and so forth and so on that are okay with that sort of thing. But then there is probably a larger percentage of people, especially the man in the relationship, probably that would not be okay with that. You have to be a certain kind of person to
I
be able
think-
to deal with that.
Yeah.
Right?
So I have a couple things about that like the more that I've been in this world, I
Right,
think that one, there's a society has a stigma on men letting their women do this. Like what kind of man are you if you let your woman
Open poly. Yeah.
yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
So it's like a more of a shame on a guy. And so I think that's a huge reason men don't do it. Also, I think a lot of men actually do love it because
Yeah.
the more that I'm in the space, I'm almost more of like a therapist on OnlyFans or some of my own my sites because they're like, is it okay that I like this? Is it okay that I think it's hot that my woman would
Right.
hook up with somebody else?
Right. So,
Yeah.
so for me, I'll speak for myself on this, but this is a relationship I was in a long time ago where we were in an open poly type relationship. And it was more because I wanted to try it with her more than it's something that I wanted. But I was like, oh, this sounds cool. Let's try it.
Yeah.
You know, she wanted to see me with other women and I wasn't into it. You know, I just wanted to be with her. But
Cool.
I was learning about myself. It didn't bother me if she was with another woman. In fact, I welcomed that.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to hear about her with other men. And I realized this is not for me.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that's because that was the way I was programmed growing up in society? Because I'm not a jealous person.
Yeah.
You know, I hear stories, women say, oh, my ex-boyfriend, if I was wearing an attractive outfit, he didn't want me doing that because he didn't want people looking at me. If I'm with an attractive woman and everyone's looking at her,
Yeah.
I feel great.
Right?
I'm like, this chick
Yeah.
is with me and everybody wants to be with her.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not that kind of person, right? I'm not possessive. I don't
Yeah.
like to tell women what to do. But like that bothered me.
Yeah.
So why do you think that is with me? Because you're in this profession.
Yeah, it can be either one. Like, obviously, we have programming with like childhood and beliefs and stuff like that that could definitely be at play. That's like deeper
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And there could be programming that it's just like that is not for you and it's not something you're into. It could be either or both.
Do you think it's wrong when people will say it's a normal, I don't know what normal is, but a normal, natural reaction for a man or a woman to not want to see their spouse having relations with somebody else. When someone says that's a normal reaction to be jealous and upset, what would you say to that?
I disagree with that
Tell me
because
why. Yeah.
because we've been so programmed for so many generations that like
Mhm.
marriage is between a man and a woman and that's it, and you marry a person and you're with them for 50 years, and that like we've been programmed that way for so long that, and then you bring in other things like religion
Right.
into it, and then you've built in trauma of like, for me it was like, you're going to hell, you're a bad person if you want
Mm.
like, because I'm bi. And
Mhm.
I was like always against saying that because I was like, oh, you can't be bi. Like you
Right.
can't like somebody other than a man.
Right.
And so I think there's so many like parts that go into it that we've been programmed to believe that that's normal,
Right.
but it's a lot of
I think everybody's
stuff.
different. I guess my opinion is everybody's different. Going back to, I guess, where I started here, where I love what you're doing. I love to see people that are happy, that are successful, that you're
Yeah.
doing what you enjoy to do. You're not hurting anybody. In fact, I would imagine you're probably spicing up a lot of other people's
Yeah.
lives,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that's great. So I have no problem with what you're doing at all. My issue is, and this is not your fault, it's sad that you were a teacher
Mm.
and that you had to realize that, hey, I can do this other thing because teachers aren't making any money.
Right.
I have nothing against what you're doing. And I think it takes a lot of, bravery to do what you do in front of a camera. I wouldn't want to do it. Nobody wants to see me doing what you're doing. Anyway, that's another story. But like, you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
Like, it's sad that we're in a
Yeah.
society now where, and I'm not saying what you're doing isn't helping people, because clearly it is spicing up for people in the bedroom, helping relationship. There's a lot of positives to what you're doing. I don't
Right.
see any negatives to it, but helping kids, special needs kids. And it's sad that you weren't making enough money to get by, or barely getting by, that you wanted to do something else,
Yeah.
mainly, right? Mainly because of the money and the hours, right?
Right.
That's sad.
Yeah. I got my master's degree. I was a year away from my PhD when the president of the school came up to me and she was like, Courtney, we are so proud of you, but we're not paying you for that. I was going to be a doctor by the time I was 30, and the school can't pay for that. And so like a special ed teacher, the average time frame is 4 years before there's burnout. 4
Right.
years.
Wow.
That's really
That's not
low.
very long.
I made it 6. It's really heartbreaking, and that's why one of the reasons I created my OnlyFans training course. You're probably like, where is this tying into being a teacher? Teachers, I will continue to advocate for teachers. We need teachers. My kids are in public school. I love them. I believe they deserve so much better. And so I created my OnlyFans training course for this reason. One, so many people do really want to express themselves. They want to make side money. A lot of teachers are working over 40 hours a week, and they're like, I can't go work another job. I don't have the time. How can I make income from home, keeping it private? And so I have in my course, like, how to make money privately, not showing your face.
And where do
Also,
people go for that, by the way?
CourtneyTillia.com.
Okay.
And then also, if you don't want your teacher on OnlyFans, if that makes you irate, if
I
that
was just gonna
upsets you,
ask you. That was my next question.
yeah, if
Yeah.
that makes you upset, then you need to vote accordingly so that teachers are compensated.
Mhm.
So either way, for me, it was controversial, right? Because either you're going to love the idea of me helping teachers to advocate for them, giving an outlet to make extra money, or it's going to make you so mad. And if it makes you so mad, then you need to vote to support them.
Let's talk about that. That
Yeah.
was my next question. Do you believe, in your opinion, that you should be allowed to be a teacher? Could be kindergarten, could be high school, don't care. And then let's just say, I'm going to give you an example. Be an escort girl legally in Pahrump, because prostitution is legal in
Yeah.
Pahrump. Do you think in society you'd be okay with somebody teaching kids and then being a legal escort girl in Pahrump? That's an extreme that I'm
That is-
asking you, but I want
yeah.
to know your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think that society has such this like standard for teachers to live up to that is so unfair. Like, how do we get to pay them so little and then control every part of their life? If her being an escort impacting how she
Well, she'd
shows
be
up to her
fired.
job,
Let's just call it.
she would absolutely be
A
fired.
teacher would be fired immediately.
Yes.
I want to know what your thought. Yeah. what
Yeah,
do you-
but is that fair to punish her for what she does in her personal life? Does it have any impact on her in her classroom and how she's able to do her
in
job?
my opinion, no.
And I would actually say she'd probably be better at it because she's not stressed about money and she's actually able to show up and give it her best versus like trying to figure out like, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to feed my family? How am I going to do these things? And feeling so like controlled by a system. Like you want us to stick in a career for so long and teach these kids and have a huge impact, but you're not going to pay us so that we're have to leave.
So listen, Courtney, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I'm taking the devil's advocate approach of, you know, what a dad would say or a mom would say.
Sure.
Let's just say a mom, you're teaching a 6th grade, 5th grade student, and then, I don't know, her husband is looking at naked pictures of you online and says, wait a second, this is a bad example for my child. We come from a religious background. You know all the excuses and what they're going to say. I mean, you know, it's, you know, that's what a lot of, maybe not a lot, but that's what some of these parents would say. What would you say to them?
It's not fair to bring your religious side and background. I don't think it's a bad example. I think it is like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm doing what's best for me. I'm living my best life. Like, I don't think it's a bad example of that. But again, you're battling people that don't want an answer. They don't want to make a change in the system. They don't want to help people. They don't want to understand people. And so I'm always like, what's the battle in these, you know?
So Courtney, I agree with everything you said, but I don't know if you saw this video, because I just think people are so, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? People, I don't want to use the term woke, because that's a word that I actually don't like people using, because I think woke is being aware, and I think that's different than what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think people are just, what's the word? I'm trying to find the right word to describe it. They want to interfere in other people's lives, and they're kind of stuck up. I don't know if you saw this video. It went viral a few months ago where these teenage girls, 16, 17 years old, they're wearing dresses. They're not exposing anything. They're wearing dresses. I didn't think they were inappropriate. And you have this middle-aged woman come over and tries to physically pull this girl's skirt down. And she actually got arrested for that. Sexual assault, they called it.
Good.
Because I just feel like we live in a society today where people are just relax, man. Take a step back and relax a little bit. There are teachers across the country that have been fired for wearing outfits that are maybe too revealing. And geez, I wish I had a teacher like that in high school. But like, you know what I'm going with? It's like teachers are getting fired. If somebody wants to go on OnlyFans, in my opinion, and by the way, this isn't for their students. This is for 18 and over,
you
right?
you have to enter in a credit card. Like, there's so many things that go into it. The fact that they think it's just like new content on the internet.
Right.
Yes. Is my content leaked? Yes. But like, it's not that easy that like.
But even if it is leaked, that's not your fault.
No,
okay?
I
That's
can't
no
control
fault.
that.
You can't control that. If somebody wants to be a teacher and then on a private, they're not see, the key here is you're not breaking the law.
Right.
Okay. If you're breaking the law, then that's a different situation.
Absolutely.
We're not talking about an illegal escort. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody like yourself who goes on a website and you put out your videos that are sexual in nature, but guess what? You have to be 18 or over. Do you think it would be weird if you're teaching a bunch of 18-year-olds that are seniors in high school that go home and look at you naked? How do you feel about that?
Again, they're adults and I can't control everyone. So like, why do I have to control and limit my life based on like what other people are doing or may do with their time? I just like, I don't think that that's fair to teachers to continue to put them in this bubble of like purity that we have to live up to. I don't think people realize how, like, I had a photo of me drinking a glass of wine and got called into the office and was like, you need to take that down.
That's
because
absurd.
like,
that's ridiculous.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like how you're not going to pay me and then I have to live up to this standard of like pure, simple teacher. Like I go teach and then I have to go home because I can't live my life. Like, that's crazy.
Can you imagine what some on the far right would say if they allowed it? If teachers were allowed to have OnlyFans pages and do, or even, you know, a porn career or whatever the case may be. Can you imagine what the far right would say? Think about what they're doing now.
Oh, they would lose it. But I think way more teachers are on there than the world knows because there's so many ways to keep your content private. You can sell content without your face in it.
Right.
Like, it's not difficult.
Like, what would you say? I'm just putting this scenario out there. You're teaching a bunch of 18-year-olds, right? And you're allowed to OnlyFans, and you know someone who's an OnlyFans member who goes on your page a lot. What would you say if your student came up to you at the end of class, be like, hey, I watched that video you put out last night. I had a good time watching that video. Like, what would you say to that student?
Obviously, I would still keep it very professional. Like, I'm not here to discuss that with you. Like, that's in the classroom. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not.
But deep down inside, you're probably like, hey, that's kind of cool. Right? I mean,
thanks for your purchase.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Do you have people that, I mean, obviously you make appearances. You've had a couple appearances here in Vegas the last couple of days. Have you gotten used to the fact that people recognize you sometimes when
Yeah.
you're out and about? How's that like for you?
I love it. I had a girl walk up to me last night. She was like, "Were you on the Dr. Phil show?" And I was like, "Yes, I was." But the funniest part about that is that she had seen me the night before at an event where I was completely nude, only wearing heels, and that's where she recognized me the first time was fully nude.
What's Dr. Phil like? Is he a creeper?
So the Dr. Phil show contacted me and they're like, "We want you to be on the show." And I said, "I will not go on your show and be berated by Dr. Phil and his audience." And they were like, "No, please. Like, we really want you. We want the show about you." So
Did he not do that? Because I didn't see the
they were
episode.
like, "We will make sure that it is not that." And he was super chill. I didn't have
Really?
any
I just
issues.
get that creeper vibe with him. I don't know.
He was so standoffish to us.
Was
that,
he really? Like, in
no,
what way?
like he's like straightforward, like doesn't really look.
Are
But
you kidding me?
yeah, but his wife though, if like looks could kill, I'd have been dead immediately when walking on the stage. She was not pleased with the segment.
You think she was just jealous of you, your look?
I talked to the producers about it after, and
Dr.
was
Phil's wife you're talking about.
correct. That's very jealous.
Well, she's got wonderful taste in men. I'm sure she married Dr. Phil for his
Because I'm
lavish-
totally going after him.
Yeah, lavishly good looks. By the way, Dr. Phil's probably the kind of guy that probably spends more money on porn than most people in this country. I'm just going with that. And by the way, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying he's the first person.
But also says terrible things about it, and
That's my-
wants it
Thank
banned.
you. That's my
Yes.
point. Do you feel like the people in society that attack what you do the most are usually people behind closed doors?
Oh, I know
that
they
are
are.
probably pleasuring themselves to you. I
Oh,
mean, yeah.
But they're the ones with the most unique searches too. And I'm not even gonna kink shame because I am not about that
Crazy.
whatever.
Yeah,
but
you're
very
right.
unique
You're right.
searches.
Doesn't
So-
surprise me one bit.
But that is the like society and the religious shame that we have, that I'm like, if we could get past that we could just be, it would be so much safer for everybody.
I so agree with you. I mean, there are countries in the world, and we're a very liberal country compared to some of the other countries. I
Yeah.
mean, you couldn't do what you do in some of these
Oh,
other countries.
absolutely.
They would kill you.
Before
I
I travel, I have to look up, like I'm getting ready to go to Japan and I'm like, I just like, I don't know for sure. And I need to know, like,
what is the most deprived sexual, appearance you made? People that are quote unquote sexually deprived. It's not this country. What would you say it is?
I haven't done appearances in other countries at
Oh, just this
time.
country.
Just,
Okay.
Yeah, I've traveled to other
Yep.
countries, and so like, but I try and keep it really like low key, just
I understand
safety purposes.
That
yeah.
makes sense. So do you
I'm
want
like in sweats and like very
Right,
like...
right. I don't know if you want to promote the event you're attending tonight. You're
Yeah,
more
I
than
am-
glad to. Whatever you need to plug, go right ahead. Yeah.
I'm walking for a Black Tape Project, and is going to be at the Peppermint Hippo. Is that correct?
Experiment Hippo, right?
Wait.
Is that what it's called?
No, Peppermint Hippo's a different
Oh,
one.
Pepper. That's the new one, right? See, Numchuck knows all the strip clubs.
He's
here in
like,
town,
yeah,
so
I know that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
I've been there.
Put your mic.
I'm trying. My mic is.
Your mic's not even working.
There we
you
go.
There we go. Yeah.
Peppermint Hippo
Peppermint
is the
Hippo.
right one. Yeah. Because
Okay.
it's the spearmint rhino.
Peppermint rhinoceros. Okay.
We are having a fashion show
Okay.
only wearing electrical tape, if you are not familiar with the Black Tape Project, but
You're
is
doing a show with just electric tape on
yes,
your body.
Yes, that is all
Boy,
I will
that
be wearing.
sounds
But
like-
there's about like
Gosh.
40 other models, and we will be getting there, and we get taped up, and it's amazing.
I'm going to a concert tonight. Don't get me wrong. I love the band I'm going to see, but it's kind of making me feel like I should cancel.
I know.
Holy smokes.
It's amazing.
Give
So-
out your website,
Yeah.
OnlyFans. How can people sign up? Because we got to run here in like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
give out-
CourtneyTillia.com. Last name's Tillia, and that's where you can find everything there.
Courtney, I love your story, and I
Thank
feel
you so much.
I get the sense with you that we can talk about just about any issue,
Anything.
and that's what I love about having you in studio. Have fun at your event tonight.
Thank you.
I would love to see some pictures, but I don't know if they'll allow it in there. But anyway,
They do. We can film all the content.
she's getting me wanting to. I'm not a member of OnlyFans. I'll be honest, but I might sign up now. I
Might
might do
need
it.
to do it.
I know Numchuck is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Lies. He's
I've
got
never
a full
DM'd her.
library. He's got a full
I've never
library.
DM'd her at all.
Yeah, I'm sure you haven't. I'm sure you have. No, in all seriousness, though, Courtney, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
being
so
here.
much.
I love your story, and I'm so happy for you that you're so
Thank you.
successful. Keep up the great work. You're beautiful and extremely intelligent. And
Thank you.
If I had to find a co-host, it would be Courtney. That's for
We
sure.
can do this.
I can't.
We can
You
co-host.
wouldn't make $50,000 a month, though. I could guarantee you that. But anyway, Courtney, thank you so much for being here. Please
Thank you.
check out our website, and we appreciate her being a part of the show. Everybody, have a great weekend. I'm having a 3-day weekend. Doug Basham's going to be filling in for me on Monday, by the way, and I want to give out my website real quick.
Enjoy LA.
Yes, I will.
Enjoy LA.
I will. Pushingthelimits.live. Check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. We are independently owned, so you can buy merchandise on there, and there's also a button there where you can donate. We appreciate anything. PushingTheLimits.live is the website. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for Courtney for being here. Former presidential candidate Joe Walsh, Carmine Sabia. We appreciate all of our guests that joined us, and of course, David Pollock in the first segment. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll be back live on Tuesday. Doug Basham filling in for me on Monday.
Hey, everybody. Are you